dann super dufte neuen Song aus dem Sägezahnzyklus und all diejenigen, die schon gegessen haben und ihre weißen Getränke rumduckeln, sollten endlich mal ihre Nahrung wägen und sich auf die Tanzfläche bewegen. Und nun geht es los.
You are listening to Däs Bündesliga Show here on the Lock Betting Podcast. You can follow Lock Betting on X at Lock Betting X. That's at Lock Betting X. On that X account, I always post my monthly P&L. It is the pinned tweet on the account. At the month, you can see the P&L for the month of August. And August was the 124th month in a row 123rd month in a row of transparent track profit. Month number 124 is what we will be looking ahead to in the month of September. We've made a strong start. Transfer market futures, US Open futures will be added to the month of September. The US Open was a very strong tournament. We've been consistent with soccer and we've made a very, very strong start to the NFL season. So September is looking good for 124 months in a row of transparent track profit. If you haven't signed up for the service, you still can do it in the month of September. You can still get on board with some of those NFL futures. We've only played 1 week of the season. And of course, the Champions League comes back on Tuesday. We are still yet to release our Champions League futures, our Champions League futures show. And we are yet to release a show and our plays for Matchday 1 as well. So still a lot of incentive to sign up for September, including the NFL plays as well. Week 2 has already started with a 1-unit winner. So moving on to this edition of Däs Bündesliga Show, I'm going to be covering 4 games on this show. I don't love too much on this slate, but what I've decided to talk about, I do feel that I have strong leans on those plays at least. So I'm going to talk about those 4 games. We begin with the Friday night game as Bayern Munich host high-flying Bayer Leverküsen. These two teams are both high flyers, to be honest, so far this season. They've both been very good. They've both been very consistent. Bayern Munich are the 4-6 favourites to win this game. It's 18-5 on the draw, and it's 15-4 here on Leverkusen. The play for this game is somewhat chalky and predictable, but I just don't see how it doesn't hit. I'm going to take over 2.5 goals, of course, because I definitely think we'll see at least 3 goals in this game. That as an individual play is at 1-3 minus 300. But I'm also going to tack on the BTTS. BTTS individually is at 1-2 minus 200. And putting the 2 plays together give us the price of 7-10. That's a short price usually for the selection, but I do think it will cash. I narrowly prefer it to taking the over 3.5 goals for this game, although I also do think that will hit. Bayern were 4-0 victors at home to Leverkusen in the Bundesliga last season, and I don't think a repeat result is on the cards. I do still believe that Bayern Munich will be able to contribute 3 goals to this game. Over 3.5 goals has cashed in 6 of the last 11 meetings between the two sides. Bayern Munich are one of the more lively attacks in the Bundesliga, but so are Leverkusen. This should be end-to-end action. BTTS has cashed in 12 of the last 14 meetings between the two teams. However, anybody looking for a Leverkusen upset should be wary of the fact that Bayern have only lost 1 of the last 25 home league games. So we're going to take over 2.5 goals here, and we're going to take BTTS. It's very difficult to back against Bayern Munich at home, but Leverkusen are more than capable of giving them a game here, and I think they'll certainly be able to contribute towards the scoring. Up next, we jump across to Saturday, And I'm going to look at a game here between Mons and Stuttgart. Mons are the narrow 6-4 favourites. It's 13-5 on the draw, and it's 8-5 here on Stuttgart. I've picked this game out because we are getting a very solid price on goals, and I don't feel that many Bundesliga games offer you too much value on overs. I think all the lines should automatically be at over 3 unless there is strong data for the under. This game offers you over 2.5 goals at the price of 9-13. So you're looking at a £69 profit from a £100 stake. And we certainly have the data here for 3 goals. So I've looked through it with a fine-tooth comb and I can't find any real reason as to why we are getting solid value here on the over. Mons have no clean sheet in their last 3. They've seen over 2.5 goals cash in 8 of the last 10, whilst their opponent Stuttgart, they are an over 2.5 goals machine with it cashing in 6 of the last 6 games. Head-to-head matches have seen BTTS cash in 6 of the last 7 as well. So I'm going to take over 2.5 goals as my play here. Not sure why we're getting the price of 9-13, but we'll jump on it. That's very, very solid value for any Bundesliga game. And that's going to be your selection here for this one. Up next, we move on to the game here between Freiburg and Borussia Dortmund, where Freiburg are the 21-10 home underdogs. It's 14-5 on the draw, and Dortmund are the even money favourites. I have not been impressed with Dortmund's start to the season. I don't think anybody has. They've stumbled their way through the start of the season, and they don't deserve, in my opinion, to be the strong favourites to win here at a Freiburg team who had a solid home record last season. Now, obviously, Freiburg did overperform. Nobody had them as a Champions League contender, but they still did what they did. They still delivered an average of 2 points per home game last season. They were 5th in the home table in the Bundesliga, taking 34 points from 17 games. So I think this is a very difficult trip for Dortmund, and it's even more difficult when you're dropping points left and right. To be 2-0 up against Heidenheim and to not win that game, that's a poor result. It's also a poor result to go to Bochum on week 2 after being bashed on week 1. Bochum was smashed on week 1 and they still got a draw at home to Borussia Dortmund, who don't often travel well. So I'm going to take the value here on Freiburg to avoid a home defeat. We get Freiburg on the double chance market at the price of 4-5 minus 125, and that's going to be my selection here for this one. The final game I've decided to cover is the late game on Saturday. It's Bochum at home to Eintracht Frankfurt, where Bochum are the 2-1 home dogs. It's 13-5 on the draw, and it's 13-10 here on Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt should be winning games like this, but I've decided to go with goals. I've decided to go with BTTS as my main selection. 2 of Bochum's 3 Bundesliga games this season have actually gone over 3.5 goals, whilst 5 of Frankfurt's last 7 Bundesliga away games have had 4 goals or more. So I think this will be a high-scoring game, and I just don't see a clean sheet for either one of them. Bochum and Freiburg both netted the last time they met in the Bundesliga, while both teams have found a net in 6 of Eintracht Frankfurt's last 8, I said Freiburg, I meant Frankfurt. BTTS has cashed in 6 of Eintracht Frankfurt's last 8 Bundesliga away games as well. So I think BTTS is the way to go. I think there's value on the selection, and that's what we'll take for this game at the price of 7-10. Closing out with your lock on the show. As I said, there wasn't much I really loved from the Bundesliga going into this week. I will have another look through it, see if I can find any more openings and opportunities, and of course those plays will appear on the lock betting card. But at the moment, these are my 4 favourite leans, and I've decided to make the lock the over in the game between Mons and Stuttgart. I think the 9-13, despite the fact it is a juice selection, does offer up some significant value. I would have it much closer to minus 200, given that this over has cashed in all of Stuttgart's last 6 games, whilst it's also cashed in 8 of the last 10 games involving Mons. So over 2.5 goals is your lock here at a price of 9-13. That's for me in this edition of Däs Bündesliga Show. Good luck with all your bets as always, and thanks for listening.